There's a brand new Rogue One trailer with almost entirely new footage. Let's take a look.
There is a 97.6% chance of failure.
He means well.
This is our chance to make a real difference. Are you with me?
All the way.
Oh shit, he's back! Oh, we knew he'd be back, and that James Earl Jones would be back as well to voice him. I got choked up a little bit. Originally, when I watched this, I did get goosebumps, and it's a little bumpy right now too. This is my 5th or 6th viewing of the trailer. There's a lot going on. I mean, we did hear before that they were talking about this movie looks too much like a war movie and not enough like a Star Wars movie, and maybe some reshoots would help fix that. It does feel a lot like a war movie, particularly when they are on the beach planet of Scarif, which I think is the way it's pronounced. I'm not sure. Please don't quote me on that one. And it also has this feeling of hearkening back to some of the original material, but also to a David versus Goliath story, which is a lot what we're looking at here. I mean, we hear K2, which is what I'm calling him now, say there's a 97.6% of failure, which, harkens to another protocol droid, these insurmountable odds. But to that, you would say, never tell me the odds. There's also an interesting shot of a Star Destroyer coming out from the shadow of the Death Star, which is another great shot to show the scale of what is going on that you may remember from many classic movies past. We see a lot more about the planet of Jedha, or Jeddah. I'm not sure how to pronounce that one either, to be honest, but this is a planet before I described as the Jedi planet. It's not quite that. We see more about the inhabitants of that planet. I think it's a planet that is sacred to Jedi and followers of the Jedi Order, but clearly not everyone on the planet is from there, though they are clearly all anti-Empire, which is enough for me. So it seems like this planet is very crucial to the Empire for some reason, and I've read before in different interviews that this is the planet where the material for lightsabers is mined. And on the other side of that, the planet of Scarif, the beach planet, is where materials for the Death Star were found, which provides an interesting contrast, a light planet and a dark planet, or a planet that produces light and a planet that produces dark. Just to show that there's always two sides going on there. We got a new look at the new ship, the U-Wing, which looks beautiful. Later, it was joined by an X-Wing entourage to show that there was perhaps some more support going on in the background. Cassian Andor, played by Diego Luna, decides to join up with Jyn Erso to, I suppose, assemble a ragtag team. Those are the first 2 members of the team. We see Saw Gerrera, who seems to be viewed as little more than a terrorist by the rebels headed by Mon Mothma. Maybe that's why Jyn was in handcuffs earlier, because she was associated with him and they don't like her too much. But we know that her father, Galen, was instrumental, I don't know in what way, to building the Death Star, so that may have been her saving grace, who her father is, who her family is. Does that sound familiar to you? And gotten her out of her litany of trouble that they spelled out earlier for us. Later we see what looks, at first it looked like a storm planet, the U-Wing, but I think instead it may have just been another side of Jeddah, because we have the character played by Jiang Wen, whose name I have not written down in my handwritten notes pile, but he says to the extent of, they destroyed our home, this is a revenge attack against the Empire, which seems to install some kind of insurgency, some kind of dictatorship on the planet that is being very heavily opposed, and why wouldn't it be, by the people there. I'm starting to feel like Jeddah might be kind of their analogy to a holy land, and maybe that's what's going on right now. Or what they're aiming for on that planet, which, okay, so if that stormy area is part of Jedha, it's a planet with 2 biomes on it, which is a new development in the canon. We see an eclipse that appears to be a Death Star eclipse, and I'm wondering if this is just an incidental moment, like, oh, that's just something that happens during the day, or if it's the Empire intentionally blocking their source of light and perhaps energy to harm them in some manner. I'm not sure how important that is to the plot, or if it's just a really cool image. It's at least a really cool image. We see do we call it an AT-ACT or an AT-ACT? Anyway, it gets shot with a rocket bazooka on the beach, and that was a it's just awesome to look at and to see the forces fighting back. I did love the scene where it had Jyn and Cassian and Saw and K2 and all of the ragtag rebels and perhaps, you know, people of ill repute gathered together and I like K2 like huddled over in the back, and she says, you know, are you with me? And this is the moment, I guess, where they understand the high stakes of what's going on. This is a battle where there will probably be many casualties, if not complete no survivors after this. We don't see these characters later on, though. I mean, Saw Gerrera, he is in the Clone Wars, but that is before this. So yeah, this could likely be his death and everyone else's death. And lastly, we have a very iconic shot of Darth Vader. And I don't know where he is. One could guess he's on the Death Star at this point in time. If you look at where he is at the beginning of New Hope, there's information around him, perhaps targeting information, perhaps for Jedha itself, perhaps the planet will be completely annihilated once the Empire gets whatever it needs from it. I think there's a lot to think about going into this. It will probably be one of the darker entries into the Star Wars mythos at large, or at least the cinematic mythos that we have that is still canon. Wah, wah. Hate to bring that up. I liked the way it looked, and I'm interested to see where it goes. If it has the classic Star Wars vibes that it seemed to be showing in this trailer, if it takes it to a darker war story, if it takes it to, you know, a David versus Goliath, but also David is going to die as well in the resulting part, I think you could highly expect that to happen. You could highly expect to not see any of these characters make it out of this movie unscathed or alive. I really like it. I told you at the Goosebumps. I'm definitely gonna check it out right away, audience. What do you think? Are you with me? We're all in. Okay, great. So leave some comments below and please like and subscribe for more.